Alli Smith, and I'm speaking today from Ithaca, New York, where I work at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And today I wanted to share with all of you watching how all of you at home can contribute to our understanding of birds, no matter where in the world you are, and also share a couple other resources we have available to help you learn about the birds that are just in your own neighborhoods. A lot of our work here is powered by eBird, which is one of the largest citizen science projects in the entire world. And it is the largest one focused specifically on birds. And to participate, it's very fun. All you need to do is find birds and tell us what you found, essentially. We have a website and an app that you can use to participate in this project. So when you go out to look for birds, there are a couple very important pieces of information that we're looking for that make your observations really, really valuable for science. The first of all, of course, it's important to identify the birds as best to your best ability, as best you can, choose species and note how many of each species that you find during your one birding outing that you're on. We also need to know where you found the birds, specifically, like on a map, exactly where you found them. And then how far you traveled or you were birding. So were you at a park and you went on a nice walk around a pond? Or maybe you were on the beach and walked a mile up the beach. Or maybe you were driving and you were at a wildlife refuge and you were birding from your car. Or maybe you were just sitting inside watching the feeders out your living room window. All of that information is important too. We also want to know how long you spent looking for birds, whether that's, you just sitting on your couch watching birds at your window, or how long it took you to walk and count all the birds along that nice walk you went on the beach. And then this last question that's kind of interesting of, did you count every bird that you saw? Is this a complete list of all the birds that you encountered, or did you intentionally leave any off the list? Like maybe you were at the beach and you were so excited about the shorebirds, you counted them and you ignored all the gulls that were there. But that question is very important for us to be able to understand exactly what you saw so that we can use this data most effectively for science. And together, the answers to all these questions make what we consider a complete eBird checklist. And so far, as of today, over 1 million people around the world have shared their bird observations with us in this format, for a total of almost 2 billion observations that represent over 10,000 species of birds from just about every country in every corner of the world. And all of these 2 billion bird observations are totally freely available to anyone to use for science, to scientists around the world, to partner organizations. If you really want to, any of you watching, can go online and download all this data to your own computer. It's a very big download. I would think carefully before doing it. But if you want to use it for a personal project or for science, we highly, highly encourage you to do that. We want to advance our understanding of birds as best we can, and we can do that with more and more people studying them. And really, with this much data, with 2 billion observations, we can really start to do some amazing things. These observations really do help us understand bird migration and population trends on not just the scale of New York State, but on a countrywide scale, like on the map here, and then on a global scale. So I've got a couple examples here that I wanted to share, just that are showing how we're using this data. This map here on the screen is from our BirdCast project, where we use weather radar data and eBird data to predict where in the United States birds will be migrating through each night. Most birds migrate at night. They don't do it during the day. Some birds do, like raptors, really take advantage of strong thermals and migrate during the day, and you can watch them migrating south at this time of year. But most songbirds migrate at night, and they migrate in such big numbers that they can be picked up on weather radar stations. And it almost looks like rain is sort of showing up around these weather radar stations as birds take off at the beginning of the night and start their journey southward. And combining that type of weather radar data with actual weather predictions, like where are storms going, which directions are winds going in, what's the temperature, combining all that with eBird data where we know generally what species exist where in the country at different times of the year, we can produce these really fun maps that predict the intensity of bird migration in every part of the United States for every day of migration, really, in the spring and in the fall. So produce these maps for 3 days at a time. And the map on the screen is showing us tonight's prediction. So if any of you live in the United States and are watching specifically from the Midwest, you can see that the area around like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri, Iowa, it's really lit up in this bright, bright orange, which is telling me that there's pretty intense migration happening in those areas tonight. There will be a lot of birds getting up and flying south, specifically in that part of the country. But here in New York, where I live, is very dark purple, and that's telling me that the weather isn't quite right for the birds. Not great winds, maybe the temperature's not right. So there won't be many birds flying over my house tonight. And other than this just being really cool and exciting and kind of fun to look at, these maps are really exciting specifically because we can use these maps to help protect migrating birds. A major, major threat to birds migrating at night is light pollution, which attracts birds. Cities are bright, and a lot of these birds are migrating partially using the stars that are above them as a sort of as landmarks to navigate the way south. And they're distracted by bright lights from cities, from homes, from buildings, and they end up getting disoriented, flying closer to the ground, and a lot of them end up hitting windows and dying. And that's devastating, but it's also exciting because that's a really preventable problem. So if any of you, for example, are in the Midwest tonight, one thing that you can do personally to help birds actively right now is to just go outside and turn off the lights that you have on outside, if you're able to. Just turning lights off reduces that light pollution and reduces the risk of birds colliding with windows in your area. Another way that we use eBird data to study birds is by using it to look at population trends over time. So eBirds existed for over 15 years now. We've got over 15 years of data from all around the world, which is allowing us to look at, like, have bird populations increased or decreased over time on a species level across the bird's entire range for wherever we have enough data for. So this map here is showing population trends for the great blue heron, which is a pretty familiar bird for a lot of people in the United States and Canada. I feel like pretty much any wetland I go to around here in New York, at least, I can probably pretty reliably find at least one heron hanging out somewhere. So relatively common bird. But if you look at this map here, it's not a happy map. This map has a lot of red on it. And overall, this is showing that over 10 years, from 2012 to 2022, the overall population of great blue herons has declined by over 10% in the range that's shown on the map here. And that's kind of heartbreaking that this is a really common bird and it is in decline. And these maps can be challenging to look at because so many of them show red like this, show that birds are in decline. But because we have so much data, we're able to make these really beautifully precise maps that show us exactly where birds need our help the most. So we can use these maps to, if there's a species that we're really interested in conserving, like the great blue heron, for example, if you wanted to help out great blue herons, you could look at this map and say, oh, wow, the Mississippi flyway right along the Mississippi River is really, really red. And if I want to help great blue herons, I should try to protect this watershed to make sure there's enough habitat for these herons to survive. So kind of a sad map to look at, but an encouraging thing in that we now know how to better target bird conservation to very, very specific places. Another really fun example here, a happy map. I wanted to show a happy one, is these tools can be used by land managers to really assess how their conservation strategies are working. So this is a map of the range of the greater sage grouse, a beautiful bird that lives in the Western United States. And over the last 10 years or so, different management strategies have been put in place in different parts of the range. So this is showing us here that the greater sage grouse is increasing quite a bit in the state of Montana, which is amazing. They're over the last 10 years, their population, their abundance has increased by about 14%, which is incredible. But in Wyoming, their abundance has decreased by about 23%. So this is really useful for managers who are trying to protect the species to know that whatever is going on in Montana is working really, really well. And maybe those strategies could be used in Wyoming instead to try to protect this bird across its whole range. So these tools that I just showed you are powered by eBird, which is powered by citizen scientists like all of you watching right now. And to contribute to eBird, you need to know how to identify birds. And we know that birding is really hard. It's really hard to get started. There's over 10,000 species in the world. And here, just in New York, where I am, there's a couple hundred different species I could find at different times of the year. A lot of them look the same, a lot of them sound the same, a lot of them are just hard to find. And if you're new to birding, it can be really challenging to get started. So we want to do our best to make learning about birds as accessible as possible to anyone in the world. And we do that through one of our apps called Merlin, which is totally free. It's available in 19 different languages, and it's a field guide to every bird in every part of the world. And the most magical part of Merlin, if you play the video here, is Sound ID. You can use Merlin to listen to the world around you and identify what birds you're hearing. This is an example here of a beautiful sound recording of a forest in South Carolina that we're playing, and Merlin is just identifying the different birds that are singing as it hears them, looking at that spectrogram on the top and picking out of that spectrogram the different unique shapes that each bird is making and identifying them based on that using machine learning and ultimately powered by eBird. All of the work that was all of the sound recordings that were used to train Merlin here were all submitted by citizen scientists like all of you who submitted sound recordings to eBird that enabled us to build this incredible tool that's just a really fun and engaging way to start to learn about the birds in your own neighborhood. So Merlin is the place that we really recommend starting if you're new to birding or if you are introducing somebody to birds for the first time. It's simple. It's pretty easy to use. It can kind of guide your way through learning how to identify birds, help you figure out what's living in your neighborhood. And it's also just really, really fun. The last thing that I want to leave you with here is one big event that we've got coming up. Every fall, we celebrate birds on one big day called October Big Day, where we really try to get as many people around the world as possible out to look for and celebrate birds. So I encourage all of you watching here today to get outside on October 12th with your eBird or your Merlin app, submit some observations, and help us learn even more about bird migration and bird populations. And with that, I am going to pass it off to the next speaker. Thank you.